So you always hear sports broadcasters, journalists, or randoms on Twitter commenting on how mentally tough our favourite athletes are. But what really is mental toughness? A quick Google search often comes up with books written by the likes of Navy SEALs and other military personnel. But is mental toughness really exclusive to the Alpha Bros? Is it about how long you can sit in ice cold water, or whether you can do a long distance run with a 30 kg backpack on? Well, no. There's a bit more to mental toughness than that, and fortunately it's something that we can all start developing a bit more of. So what's a definition for mental toughness? Well, initial research into it during the 1980s defined it as follows: stress tolerance and the ability to maximize performance. In other words, the capacity to perform consistently towards the upper range of one's skills and talents, regardless of circumstances. And I think it's important to note this last little bit, regardless of circumstances. Those who are mentally tough will do whatever they need to do, irrespective of how they feel. Think of Michael Jordan and the flu game, now known as the pizza game, where he played with food poisoning and still dropped 38 points on the Utah Jazz, despite looking like dropping down unconscious throughout the entire game. And mentally tough people also do what they need to do, irrespective of the moment or the context in which they find themselves in when they have to perform. It doesn't matter if they're tasked with scoring the penalty to keep their side in the tie, or whether they're serving for match point. The added pressure is not something they let get to them. So are there actual components of mental toughness? Well, yes, and the go-to resource and model is the MTQ-18, a mental toughness psychometric test. And it simply asks you questions about the 4 C's of mental toughness: control, commitment, challenge, and confidence. So control refers to how in control do you feel of your life and outcomes, and also your ability to control and manage your emotions. Mentally tough people keep performing irrespective of how they feel, and they don't get swayed by any of the stressors or hurdles that pop up during competition. And they're also experts at adopting a sense of calm during high stakes moments. A great example of this is among Formula One drivers. They're racing these supercars where the slightest mistake or error could in theory end in death. And what's surprising is always how calm they are after a crash. They might be a little frustrated, but in most cases they just calmly hop out of the car and walk back to the team area. There's probably not many other things in sport that best showcase this ability to keep in control. Then when it comes to commitment, this is all about goal orientation and your ability to set realistic goals, and also your ability to stick in the pursuit of them irrespective of what happens. There's infinite examples of this, but a great one doing the rounds recently was hearing from Manchester United goalkeeper Lee Grant, talking about the impact Cristiano Ronaldo has had on the team's eating habits. So apparently at the hotel on a Friday before a game, the squad usually get dessert as a cheat treat, but no one got up because they wanted to see what Ronaldo was eating. And Grant says that it was just pure healthy food: quinoa, avocado, and a couple of boiled eggs. It's a small example, but demonstrates the commitment that Ronaldo has had to demonstrate for over 15 years to get into and then stay in the most ridiculous shape. There probably hasn't ever been an athlete in as good shape at 36 years old, and that's through being able to stick to the never-ending long-term goal of prolonging your career for as long as possible and fighting off father time. And when it comes to challenge, this refers to the extent an individual is willing to go to push back on their boundaries, adjust, change, and manage risk. In other words, it's your ability to actively seek out and welcome with open arms new opportunities, challenges, and hurdles. Mentally tough people don't complain when things change. Instead, they just adjust and adapt in order to keep on top. An iconic moment for this comes from Lance Armstrong during the 2003 Tour de France. Another rider crashed in front of him during the 9th stage to take Lance off course. And instead of stopping like the rider behind him, Armstrong instinctively decided to race through a field and then rejoin the pack on the road. It was one of the craziest things ever seen in Tour de France history, and even Armstrong's strongest critics had to respect the ingenuity of adjusting to such a challenge instantaneously. Now, we know that those performances were fueled by performance-enhancing drugs, but the mentality seen by Armstrong here shows his ability to embrace the challenge thrown right in front of him. And finally, confidence is just your inner self-belief about your ability to deal with challenges and conflicts. Those who are mentally tough have a knack of being able to stand their ground when necessary and not waver to any pressure that comes their way during big moments. This was apparent in Emma Raducanu in her recent US Open win. It was clear that the majority of the crowd was supporting her Canadian opponent Leylah Fernandez. And at first it did look like Raducanu's confidence wavered a touch in not making her first 2 championship points, but she picked herself up, held her nerve, and nailed her 3rd championship point. Throughout the entire tournament, she didn't lose a set, and her confidence seemed to just grow and grow. She wasn't intimidated whatsoever by the pressure and the spectacle of it all, along with facing much more experienced and successful players than her. So when you bring together these 4 C's, you have a recipe for mental toughness. And despite some research suggesting that mental toughness is more of a trait, I believe that it's something you can improve and develop through practice and training. There are a range of different mental skills that you can deploy to start improving on these 4 C's. And a great starting point is through mental imagery. So check out this next video here to find out more.